For all the people who judge without knowing, just throw the peace sign, tell them good vibes only, yeah. They were hating, but we didn't even notice, cause we're on them good vibes only, yeah.
Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for joining me on Vibe Talks, where we wind up talking about many different subjects on this channel. My name is Jessica Johnson from Western Michigan, for all those who don't know me. So we're going to talk about something that you're going to find interesting and fascinating, and it's also going to enlighten your mind as well as your spirit all at the same time. What we're going to be talking about is the 11 universal principles. And some people know them as the 11 universal laws. Now, there's many different aspects of this law. There's, the universal principles of manifestation and so on and so forth. But this specific one that I wanted to discuss is due to my, me doing many different research on many different subjects. I found this particularly, interesting because these 11 universal principles was originally found etched on a interstellar craft that crashed at Roswell in 1947. That's right, you heard me. It was found etched on a interstellar craft in 1947, which was later deciphered. Come to find out that it was not only the 11 universal laws that were etched on that craft, but it was also the 11 spiritual principles as well, which we will be talking about in a different video. But today we're going to cover the 11 universal principles. Now, I had asked a really good friend of mine to join me on an interview for us to discuss the 11 universal principles. Her name is Felicity Young. She's from Quebec, Canada. She originally came from Australia. She's a fascinating, talented woman. She is a spiritual wellness coach, a spiritual wellness guide, and she's extremely knowledgeable on many different subjects. We have discussed on a vast amount of different subjects, and I find her knowledge and her perspective unique and fascinating. So I invited her for us to discuss, these 11 universal principles. So I'm glad that you're here, because you're about to be spiritually blown away and what is discussed on this video. So don't take my word for it. See for yourself. How you guys doing today? My name is Jessica Johnson from Western Michigan. Who I have with me? Who is she? My dear friend Felicity Long. She is from Quebec, Canada, originally from Australia, and you're going to love her accent as much as I do. But we're going to be talking about the 11 universal principles. Why is this important? Well, it's important because every living being that functions, whether they realize it or not, they inherently understand these universal principles, and many higher beings follow it to the T. Just like I have said in many of my other videos, is that to have assistance from your spirit guide or angels or anything, you have to ask for it, giving them permission so they're not violating one of the laws, which is the law of will. I'm going to get Felicity's aspect and what she feels about this universal principle that all of us naturally and inherently understand, and whether we know it or not, we follow. So take it away, introduce yourself, Felicity, and let's get this party started, as they say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. So for those, you know me, you know what I do, but for everyone else that's watching, I am known as Galactic Mum. I run a spiritual wellness guide business called Galactic Health, where we look at all the different principles of wellness, and they all have a spiritual connection somewhere in there. People say no, there's not, but there is. Everything comes down to our physical, our mental, intellectual, emotional, occupational, environmental. Everything plays a part in our spirituality. And one of the things that I teach quite heavily is these 11 principles. I knew them as 12 until I dug a little bit more and found the 11 universal principles. And I'm like, hang on a second, they split one of these. They did. They split one of them. I'm like, that makes so much more sense now that they actually go together. And I've been done so much research and so much connecting to the higher guidance spirits over the last 2 years, more than anything. I actually came to these in a rather interesting time because I was a faith follower. I've done Christian, I've been Muslim, I've been Buddhist, I've gone through Hindu and Wicca and Druid and all of that. And all of these underlying principles were always there. But having them explained in a very simple format I had never had. They were always in what I call Yoda speak, where they're cryptic. And they're as cryptic as possible to make you guess and make you give all of these different interpretations, which actually comes to the very first one, which is the free will. Everyone has their free will. Everyone is allowed their own interpretation. Everyone is allowed their own way of seeing things, their own way that they express things.
And that goes along with the principle. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that also goes within the universal principle of perception too. It's not only, the information, but also how we perceive it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, all good. No, I love doing interviews that way, where we just basically having a conversation and going back and forth.
That's how I like it too. We're on the same page.
Yeah. And that's why that very first one, which is the free will, is so fundamental, because it then helps to guide or govern all the preceding ones, which is the first one is no one shall control another's physical, mental, emotional, sexual, spiritual, or environmental essence. No one is allowed to control that.
So how's that play work with now?
With now, we seem to have forgotten that we have all of this free will. We have forgotten that we are complete creators of our own reality. We can create anything that we want, and our subconscious is actually the one that's influencing our reality. Before we've even made a decision, before we even decide to do something or to go somewhere, our subconscious is already manifesting the reality around us. And we forget that, yes, this is actually happening from inside us, but we have that free will to direct it. It's not just, being told by our parents, our friends, our colleagues, our teachers, any of that. And that's what's been happening. And I call it the sphere of influence. All of my clients will know it as the sphere of influence. They've been infecting us to forget that we have this free will to create whatever we want. Oh, everyone dreams big when they're kids. Like before we're about 7 years old, before that wiring is solidified inside of our consciousness, we think big. We think galactic. We don't get limited to us. Exactly. And when it's built into us, because until that age, we're so connected with oneness, with the divine, and we don't care what anyone else has to say about what we want to do. That's why kids have such amazing imaginations, right? So, but we get
their energy is so, so vibrant at that point,
It is. It really is. And they're infectious. I mean, mom of 3, okay, of 3 different ages, there are 3 different levels of learning, but it's amazing to see all the changes that happen. It's amazing to see things that come out of their minds. And also, because they are so connected, you get things like with my 3-year-old daughter, where she comes out in the middle of the night sometimes, and she'll be talking to us about something about the movie or the TV show that we're watching, as if she's been sitting here watching it for the last hour and a half. And I'm like, you just come out of your room. You really do have to bring it down to the level, which is trying to explain some things to my kids about why they do certain things. And it's hard because they're not quite there yet. I have 3, 5, and 7. So
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to whip out, like a PowerPoint presentation and bring it to my daughter's forefront. Like, this is what happens. See, pretty picture. This is what's going on. Yep.
I'm about ready. Just put it down in pretty pictures and something that they can be like, oh, okay. Yeah. I know they'll forget it in a day or 2, but hey, at least it was the effort.
It was the effort. Why not?
Like trying to do kids yoga, by the way. It is the effort that counts.
I would love to see that one day.
It's hilarious.
sometimes with kids, and trying to get them to do meditation or yoga, it's like trying to herd cats.
Pretty much.
So what about the universal principle of change?
That's one of the ones that took me a little while to actually understand. is that everything goes through changes. We see it in the 4 seasons of the earth. I actually started learning this through the Hopi. When I started doing more research through the Hopi tribe, they have different names for the seasons. The Wanayetu, which is the winter, the Vetu, which is the spring, the Medayetu, which is the summer, I think I said that right, and the Patanyetu, which is the fall. And they
you did a better job in pronouncing those than I did, you know.
I have an ear for languages. When I was 12 years old, I knew 8 languages and I could speak them almost fluently.
Oh yeah, we were discussing that. I mean, you're very brilliant, and so, you're gonna be my new hooked on phonics lady when I'm having trouble pronouncing certain things. Just to let you know,
That's okay.
How you pronounce this? Don't get it. My tongue is just tying in many different areas. But back to what you were saying. I'm sorry.
I've been there. I know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
But this concept of change, it was explained to me in actually quite a very beautiful way. Is the fact that it's like seeing the change from a caterpillar to a chrysalis to a butterfly. Mm. And that change is necessary because within each of these seasons, within each of these chairs, through a process. Every living thing, every source of energy goes through a change within each of these minor cycles. And the change helps us spiritually, physically, mentally, all of those different things. Like in winter, when you can't go outside because it's minus 40 degrees, so you're stuck in the house and your mind runs rampant because you can't be as physical. Mm-hmm. You have to look at other ways of being physical. But it also, those are the times when you sit down and you do the mental work.
Yep.
Like right now with all of this craziness that's going on, a lot of people are doing really big discoveries within inside of themselves. They've looked at everything that's happened in their life and where their life is going, and they're like, this doesn't match up with where I started. This doesn't match up with what I wanted to start being when I was 5 years old.
Hence the big awakening. You know, what's happening now.
Right.
It's the ascension process we're going into right now. And a lot of people are having that moment of pause and going within, you know, rather than looking outside of themselves, which is beautiful. I love that analogy with the butterfly.
Yep. And it's,
yeah.
Well, it is, because we're the butterfly, we're absorbing everything, we're learning everything, all the different subjects, how to be, how to think, how to do, how to act. And then basically where we are now is that chrysalis stage. I mean, yes, there are a lot of us that have come out of the chrysalis, and we've been trying to show everyone else how to get out of that at the moment. And sometimes it feels like you're smacking your head against a brick wall. It does. It really does, because you say the same thing to some people like 1,000 times and it still doesn't get through. But they're now discovering on their own that we've been saying the same thing for years or months, however long they've known us. And they're like, this is actually making sense. Like, this is actually the way that it's supposed to be. And so we got to get through this process. And then we get into that butterfly where you're now looking at growth, humanity growth. And actually I one of the parts of that change is that growth of humanity. And this is one of those parts within this law that people don't really talk about, is that we will constantly change in all areas of that wellness aspect. Like, we don't have to stay the same in our thinking, in our doing, in our acting. We can change, we can evolve. And one of those things that has to get put down is judgment, is preconceived ideas, is that predetermined perception of how things are, how things should be. We can make it anything, which goes right back to the free will and being complete creators of ourselves.
Yeah, every one of these universal principles, they fit so nicely together. And everything. And just like you had said, and I wanted to point out, you know, just like in many other of the other religions and everything else, they were teaching these universal principles. They just worded it differently, but the whole concept is all the same, you know. So, you know, it's just amazing in how you have pointed it out. You know, but like I said, you know, so what about the universal principle of balance and movement, the one that's been basically broken down into 2 that made the 12, you know, versus the 11-11?
Yeah. So we where do I start with this one? This represents kind of the spirit of all creation. It moves the earth, the two-legged and the four-legged, everything that is has been moved with thought, right? It was given life by thought, actual physical manifestation, if you will, or a physical body by thought. We are not actually just who we are. We are inhabiting this physical form as it is right now. But for us to keep moving forward, it's also the spiritual walk, if you will, as well. Like you, how do I put this?
Well, let me try to help you out a little bit. It's everything has to do with balance. Like this behind me, the Merkaba, it specifies, the balance and how the energy flows and fluctuates between, and then you have movement. Now, everybody wants to think of movement as a linear, space, but it's not.
It's not. Thank you. I'm like, how do I
no,
put this? In my mind, it goes like this. In my mind, it goes like this.
Yeah, she needed a little bit of a boost. Now, take it away from Felicity.
Thank you. Everyone does. They do. They see it as this very linear thing. But from the way that I've seen it for a very long time is the fact that as we're going through this journey, this moving forward, we're growing, we're changing, things come up from our past, kind of like that spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to affect what we're doing right now. We have to find that balance with what happened then, how it's now affecting us here in the now. How are we going to heal that so that we can keep moving forward? Because if we don't address certain mentalities, mindsets, events, traumas, things that happen in our past, it stops us at a point of that journey, and we're stuck on that imbalanced scale. So we can't actually keep moving until we balance what's happening and what's coming up as we're going through these journeys.
And that's what's happening now. And a matter of fact, I do want to point this out. When I had met Felicity, she had did a live video and in regards to the Merkaba, and I just the vast amount of knowledge this woman has. She's getting embarrassed now, but she has, she has like a vast amount of knowledge, because when she did that live, I'm getting fumbled in my words now, that Facebook Live, I was thrown back. I was like, wow, I have to talk to this girl. I really do. So then she had posted something for people to post a picture of themselves, and I had this alien shirt on. It was tie-dye, and she had said something to me, wow, you need to, something about, breaking in the tinfoil hat. And I was like, well, I'll sport it. And then we became fast friends after that. We started talking back and forth, and then I was just like, all right, I got to get you an interview. And she's just, that's what happens. You start having people fall into your path for every reason. And I have learned so much in a very short time that I've met this woman. I have learned so much from her, and she speaks my language, let's put it that way. So,
I stop myself every so often, because my mind runs at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's actually running on higher university language and ways of expressing language. And sometimes I have to stop it in the middle and go, wait. Not everybody has read the hundreds of university level books. You need to bring it down here where it's understandable easily.
Exactly. And not just that, but the energy, you're going to get even more hyped up in a minute, because every time I interview with a person that, that is at that level, there winds up being an energy exchange, even though it's remotely. And it's happened to me a couple times when I've interviewed a couple of people, and I would be like a little child going like this, can't sit still, have to sit on my hands, behave. So yeah, your mind's probably going to be processing a lot faster, just to warn you, but
that's okay. I've already come to the conclusion that my mind is basically a quad-core processor running 2 operating systems in 8 different languages all at the same time. It has been like that since I was about 13 years old, and it's never ever stopped.
Yeah,
ever.
absolutely. So what about the universal principle of family integrity? Because over the years, family, family means many different things. Let's get that out. You got your earthbound family that had brought you into this world and the people that you're connected to. Then you have your soul group of people who are now starting to reunite. So we're having like a whole nother family, reunion in that aspect at this time now. But also too, over the time of our conditioning, the family values have kind of separated and lagged because of the conditioning, because that's how they were trying to make it to be. So what does the family integrity play a part in the universal principle in regards to its importance?
You have your two lines, which is your terrestrial here, which is actually your bottom line, sorry. And then you have your upper line, which is your heavenly family. This is where your soul has actually spent 90% of its time before it came here to this 3D. Many people say, oh, I'm Arcturian, I'm Andromeda, or I'm something. If they've had any readings done on them, or they've gone and done some research themselves and tried to figure out where some of these traits come from. Arcturian and Andromeda. I've got a 50-50 split in my back. Right?
So,
and we're all starting to find each other again. Like, I'm seeing more and more people pop up on my friends list and that are joining me through some of the groups that I'm in, that no idea where they are, but they're like, hey, you're my soul family, I'm Arcturian as well, or I'm Andromeda as well. I'm like, I didn't even tell you, and we can recognize each other from a distance. And this connection between the upper and the lower is represented by this creation of innocence, this pure innocence, unaffected by anything else that goes along, that is our center. It's who we know, who we are at our core, regardless of anything else that happens out there, which is why I get a whole bunch of people to do this self-discovery course that I have. And it takes like an hour tops. If you do it all at once, it takes about an hour, because you have to get rid of all of this influence about what has your family been brought up with? How were you brought up? How have you, other people that have influence on you, were they brought up? And it's disconnected. There is no right or wrong when it comes to this center line of family, melding those two together, but it results in the truth, absolute truth. And the connection between these two is most prevalent in children, again. It's pure 100% innocence, and it goes right back to that unconditional love that we should all have for each other, for our children, for everyone in our past, because we are essentially one family, one being, one thought, one truth. And exactly. A lot of people forget that.
And not just that, but a lot of people who are from these, cosmic, star seeds, who are from the cosmic, universe that, wind up, mine was like when in 2015, I asked specifically, and then they turned around and told me, because they knew I was kind of like, I was coming into this awakening, so I was kind of skeptical about a lot of different things. And they were like, look up Lemurian. I didn't know Lemurian existed. I didn't know it was a word. And so I looked it up, and just all the information was like, you're a Lyran. And it even showed me what I looked like. And I was just like, that's why I kind of look like I have a cat face, and I like cats. That makes sense. So, but also too, a lot of these other star seeds also interconnect with each other. Like there's, it's just that you see it within your auric field, that energy, when you're dealing with another star seed, and then there's
you recognize them.
Yeah, you do. You do, and it's like a family reunion, and that's exactly how I felt when I met Felicity. I was just like, when she was razzing me about the whole tinfoil hat thing, and I was just like, oh yeah, I got your number. I know what you are.
Well, it's okay. We'll break them out and wear them together.
Yeah, exactly, and we will do that. So if you're on Facebook and then you're any of our friends, watch, because she told me that she'll do it if I do it. So I now been dared. I have to do it now. So you will see a tinfoil hat on me, and I will be waiting for Felicity to wear hers.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I have it set up over there. It's already made. It's just
I haven't made mine yet. I gotta go get tinfoil.
See, we always have an abundance of tinfoil because the kids like to make stuff with tinfoil and then coat them in plaster or whatever. We don't actually use it for cooking. We don't actually use it for cooking. I use it for everything else but cooking. And everyone's like, why?
I don't know what happened.
It
Disappeared. It was gone. I was like, what happened to the tinfoil when I was looking for it? Because I told you the other day I was going to wear a tinfoil hat. And when I went to go look for the tinfoil, it was gone. I was like, I don't want to have to go to Wally World and go get tinfoil and go through all that.
No.
But it'll be on. Trust me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the universal principle of symmetry. So that's a good one.
This is what people perceive as the separation between human or mankind and animals, plants, birds, and the rest of creation. We have always thought of ourselves as superior, but we aren't. Realistically speaking, if we were to go in the ocean, if we were to go in the ocean and play with great white sharks, we would be lunch. We are not. We're at the top of the food chain because yes, we have ships and we have hunting and we have all that, but so we perceive ourselves superior, but we aren't. That we are created completely equal. We will all go extinct in the same way if the same event happens at any moment in time. Like another asteroid comes, that's it. We're all done. We are not immune. And
or the bees die, and everything else,
And that's it. If the bees die, that's it. We're done within less than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We are done because pollination doesn't happen, and we can't grow food, and then we have to look at synthetics and a whole bunch of things. Like the trees as well. They give us oxygen. If the bees dies, that's it. The trees aren't going to get pollinated anymore, which means the photosynthesis stops and the turning of carbon dioxide into our world will slowly suffocate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
We have to get back to this being in balance with the natural order.
Well, we have to get back into our role as being good stewards, which we've gone away from.
We take and take and take, and we don't think any less of it. We think that there's this endless supply of everything, and depending on where your thinking is, yes, there is an endless supply of resources. Depends on how you look at it, but we take more than we need because it's all here for us. Mm-hmm. We are superior, therefore it is ours.
And then what we put out, it's not good for the earth. The earth has been struggling because of the pollution. We have not been good stewards. Let's face it. So that's the whole point with this ascension, that we're starting to understand that. And that's why a lot of people are starting to go into health and wellness and everything, So let's talk about the principle of life.
The connection between the creator and the human being.
Life. Yes.
The flower of life, it's also the symbol of the grid of energy that actually surrounds this entire sphere. I don't know if you've ever looked up at the sky and seen it. You can actually see it radiating in the flower of life mandala.
As well as the ley lines and everything. There's certain points that I feel that energy when I'm, whether that's the ley line of higher energy or the ley line of heavy energy.
Yeah. I've gotten a few pictures, most recently actually, of this energy actually affecting the clouds above our house. And
so if you send those pictures to me, I will put them in this video just to let you know.
I will find them on my phone and see if I can get them downloaded onto my computer and send them out to you. Yeah, I've actually gotten those pictures, and everyone's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "You see this here?" And I actually had to take like a little pen mark and draw it out on the picture on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh wow, it actually does do that." I'm like, "That is this connection. This is the life. This is." Not just a barrier between us. This is a spiritual thing that we need to understand. And this connection between the creator and the human beings is actually discovering within ourselves law that kind of encompasses everything. We're not a straight line path. We have this creator within ourselves. This allows us to attune to our galactic center. not just to our sun or to the center of our Milky Way, but it also allows us to connect to the universal sun, the universal heart, where all thought came from, where all life came from.
Exactly.
It all resonates on this one frequency, which manifests itself as the Flower of Life mandala, funnily enough.
And not only that, but like the crop circles and everything else, we've been getting help from up there, because that's why they've been putting these crop circles down, because of the fact that they knew this time was coming, and that certain symbolism had to be, it was supposed to be our job to do it, but they've been doing it to kind of help that. And that's why the whole symbology of the crop circles are happening, is to get everything aligned through these symbolic, drawings, if you will, or etches into the ground. So we've been getting help from from them, from our cosmic family. That's why they've been putting these crop circles in. Yes, they're very beautiful designs, but if you really tear them apart into symbology, they actually have a significant meaning behind them, that would blow a lot of people's minds. Seriously.
And they have a lot of information in them, because they're actually created 3D. They appear 2D because of the way that they are, but they're actually created 3D, because we are a 3D sphere. So there's actually more information in them than what we can perceive by a 2D flat picture.
Absolutely.
And they're only just now, in the last couple of years, actually starting to turn them into 3D things, because some genius out there has said, there's a raise and a bump in here, and look at this little bump. I wonder what that looks like in a 3D shape. Let me turn this into a computer model. Like, technology is actually catching up with that. Finally, it's there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
that
amazing.
line from Thor, what you call science, your ancestors call magic. And where I come from, they're one and the same.
They are.
Our technology our science is finally catching up to the magic that our ancestors would have called.
And I was taught this, in my Druid practices as well, that science as well as, magic, it's all one and the same, And if you really look at quantum physics, and as you study that, you will see that correlation, like, fit together like a puzzle piece. It's amazing.
You do, like, absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
Which is, leading into the next law, which is your light and sound and vibration.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that.
Which is, it represents the law of light, the universal law of light and sound and vibration. This is that sound and light are the basis of all creation. Everything is energy. Energy has a frequency that we can perceive and that we can hear. And this is the light sources. So when you look at infrared and some of the rainbow spectrums, they each have a frequency. Very few people can actually hear all of those frequencies all of the time, but they all have a specific frequency, and that sound and light gives that vibration.
Yeah.
Which goes on. Every single thing vibrates. It doesn't matter whether it's a table or it's me or it's you or it's one of my cats or my dogs or something outside. We're all vibrating. Exactly. But within inside of that, we are still vibrating. Our atoms are still vibrating.
Yeah.
It never stops, and it creates healing. It helps us to recreate, which is why you can rewire your way of thinking. You can rewire your body. You can rewire everything around you, because it never stops. We think it does. We're not a stone. Like, we don't sit still. We're always moving. As much as people think that we are stones, sometimes we're not.
Exactly. And not only that, too, what I find is fascinating, too, if you take a ultraviolet light, or like where people can do night vision and everything. I can't think of it. My brain just farted on me. But you could be able to see, like, if you have like extraterrestrials or anything like that, you can actually see them using, night vision, because of the, of the light, because it throws off a certain frequency and you're able to pick them up. And just like light, sound, and vibration, let's say that you have visits for those, if you take a picture, your camera doesn't have a consciousness, so it cannot be manipulated. So you're able to take images and everything else. I've done it. I have pictures upon pictures But you can, it'll pick it up. So what you don't see in your eyes, itself, your camera will pick it up. That's why sometimes when people have had loved ones who passed on and everything else, if they take a picture at a certain angle or something like that, they'll see a spirit that'll show up, because why? They're vibrating at that certain frequency, at a higher vibration. We can only physically see 3D, but and those that are plugged in, yes, they can see 4D and 5D, but typically, people can only see 3D. So the camera doesn't have a consciousness, so it's going to pick up what it is, what's there, and what's not.
Yep. And it's interesting. Some of the newer cameras, like I have one of the older cameras still in my Samsung. It's actually one of the older cameras, so it picks up that infrared. It picks up some of the ultraviolet stuff, which is why it can.
That's how I kept thinking that word.
And I can capture frequencies on my phone. Yeah. And everyone's like, "What is this static in the background?" And I'm like, "Look at it. It's forming that pattern." Because it picks up.
And that's what I was trying to think of that word too, because I couldn't think of ultraviolet or
the infrared. Like I had to pick up my phone and think about it to do it, but it's that infrared. And a lot of the cameras are actually going away from this to actually stop people from seeing that, because they know that it picks up.
Yeah, it does.
Which is hard with all the new camera wave technology that's coming out, because you now have like 7, 8, 9, 12 cameras in a phone that take different perspectives. My husband has 9 cameras in the back of his phone.
Really?
Like 9 camera lenses.
Like, why would you need so many?
Right? I don't get it. I have 3 just here.
I have
3.
I have 2.
Yep.
But mine's the outdated phone.
The reason I can think about it is that they're trying to advance this technology so that they can take a picture and it'll actually take a holographic or a 3D, if you will, perception of the picture that they're taking. So you turn it into holograms or virtual reality or some of that sci-fi stuff that you see in the movies, but you need that picture before you can do it.
Yeah.
We need camera technology before we can do it.
Yeah, exactly. That too. So what about the universal principle of judgment? That's a big one, because we're trying to break away from that as a society currently right now. And there is a scuffle going on, because people still want to go into that duality aspect of this versus this and everything. But that is starting to break through, which I have noticed, which I'm happy about, because, well, we're no longer duality dies. At the moment the age of Aquarius came into picture, it's got to take its process. So what about the universal principle of judgment?
What you put out, you get back. Putting it simply, what you get out, you put back. If you're focusing on, oh my God, I've always got this bill, and oh my God, people treat me this way, and oh my God, they think this way, and I think this about this people. That thought, that reality that you're creating with your conscious and subconscious is exactly what you're going to get back at you. You're going to have all these people that you're going to butt heads with all of the time. If you think that you're being judged, you are being judged. If you're going to judge another person, they're going to judge you right back, because it's your own judgments, it's your own preconceived ideas, it's your own perception that you have of yourself, the world around you, your likes, your dislikes, all of it. But it's a teacher. Judgment is a teacher. And when you have not thought about somebody, say, and I'm going to use Islam as the perfect example, because the whole perception of Islam was forever changed by one event. Everyone started seeing them as these evil, must be eradicated terrorists on the world. But if you actually took time to understand the Quran in itself, it is not. The reason that they have these jihadist wars is that they're actually doing it in service of God, to wipe out those that would say hate speech against his word with their own Quran, and it went on for thousands of years inside of their own groups, because they all have this is this and this is this. And it's the infighting that happens because they can't seem to find that harmony. They all have their own perception, they all have their own judgment, and they can't match it up.
And there's different aspects of it, because I have a friend of mine who was like a brother to me. We worked together years back, and he was from Algeria, and he was Muslim, and I was curious. I'm always a curious creature, so I asked him a bunch of questions because I wanted to know, because I didn't want to plug into that fear factor that was going on at that time. So I wound up wanting to know what that was, and he explained it to me. That it's not the radicalism that people try to perceive it to be. Actually, it is actually in peaceful religion. They try to help one another, and they try to help their community and everything else. And it gave me a whole different perspective in that. And like I said, people come into our past for a reason, and and he was a wonderful man. He was like a brother to me. I used to call him like my brother from another mother, and but he gave me a whole new aspect of what his beliefs were in regards to how it actually is. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and it's important to know that. Stop plugging into the media. They're not going to tell you the truth, people. They're going to make you hate everybody, including your next door neighbor, and tell you don't like Chihuahuas. They're mean, and your neighbor has a Chihuahua,
Yeah, so and that judgment is on everything. Like, I picked Islam because it's the perfect example, and everyone has, even if they've started seeing the real side of Islam and the people that are there and how they actually interact and behave with the rest of the world, they'll throw out that one line or that one thought of, oh, they're just a bunch of ignorant towelheads. Or, not to offend anybody that's watching, please don't take that the wrong way, but those little thoughts will still come out because they've been put in so far deep into our subconscious. So over the last 20 years, that they're not going to go anyway anytime soon. And balancing that judgment.
But if you really think about it, all religions, I'm sorry, but all religions have radicalism.
Yeah. Every single one across the board has radicalism, that believe that this one little piece of the scripture that needs to be followed, like, bow down, this is it, this is the ultimate thing, has always been there. I've always looked at faith as a building. If you took faith, just faith, forget religion for a second, as a building, each religion is its own floor. Or if you think about it one way, they're their own corners within a building, and they have multiple levels, and you've got all these different people with on-site these different floors or in these different corners fighting over the same thing. Christianity and Islam, they are on the same floor. They're on opposite sides of the building, and they're fighting over the sides of the building.
Yes, exactly.
Come on, guys.
My aspect of judgment is also this too, and a lot of people haven't thought about that. Like, have you ever met somebody that for some whatever odd reason you can't stand them? You don't like their personality, you're trying to figure out why you do not like this person. Well, when you start to tear that apart, you start to realize that person has similarity mirrored a part of your personality.
Yep.
And then you start to, universe is great on mirroring things. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So that's another part of judgment. So, it's like she said, it's a teacher, judgment is a teacher. And so what about the universal principle of nature? And we'll do nature, love, and perception. Take it away.
Oh. All right. Big one. All right. Nature, I see nature as the mother Gaia. We are our physical reality, or our physical bodies, everything that we can see and perceive and touch and know and smell came from the one consciousness, which is Gaia. She is our Mother Earth. There is the change of seasons. There is time of growth. There is birth. There is rest. There is death. And there is rebirth. And we all go through this. This is the fundamental law of nature. Everything goes through this cycle, and nothing is immune from it. Once again, all plant, all animal kingdoms serve this law willingly and lovingly. I mean, we try and resist it for however much longer. We fear death as human beings. We hate getting older. I don't care. I could die tomorrow. I could get hit by a bus. Doesn't matter. I'm going to live life to the fullest every single day that I can, because I know that it will end. one day, and I don't try and prolong that. I don't try and look for ways around that. That is staying connected to that law of nature, that everything has its purpose, everything has its time, and everything has a natural action, if you will. If you are seeing aspects of yourself, of the creator, of the divine, it helps you to understand your place in this giant circle. What are you in here as the circle or the cycle of humanity?
Mm-hmm.
We have a natural place within inside that cycle. Yes, we go through our own cycles of, life, death, rebirth, and all that, but we have in another cycle that is the natural cycle of humanity itself. And societies will go through it.
Yes.
And societies will go through that cycle as well. You see it all the time.
And you put that so elegantly. You really did. I mean, you're like a poet when it comes to quantum physics.
I was actually starting to explore quantum physics when I was doing engineering in university.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. I originally wanted to be a pilot, but I tried to go through military, and because I missed the cutoff by 2 weeks, they said I couldn't be a pilot, and they wouldn't put me through the next round. So that didn't happen. But I'm working on getting my own private pilot's license.
Wow! Many visits I see in the future.
I have my own plane. I'll be moving around. Ultimate goal is I want my own Cessna.
Awesome.
Ultimate goal. It's out there. 20 years from now, sure, no problem. Why not?
I will ride with you. By then, we'll have the disc shape, crafts. By then, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we won't need Cessnas. We won't need fuel.
We'll just have.
I started looking at
where we want to go. It'll be consciously connected, integrated, and boom,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I started looking at quantum physics from a mechanical and robotic standpoint in engineering.
Wow.
Looking at things like nanotechnology and the healing aspects of nanotechnology, what they could do for a spine that has been severed, rebuilding nerves, rebuilding tissue, rebuilding brain cells and brain stems, and all of these different aspects that go with it. And people are like, you're applying basically space theory and technology to human development. Like, I'm looking at the potential of healing with quantum energy, and I know that it works.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it works.
I just now started looking at the quantum mechanics aspect. Now, I understood the quantum consciousness very well, but now I'm starting to look into the quantum mechanics myself, and it's extremely fascinating. Absolutely.
It is. And I had a whole bunch of stuff happen. One day I will probably go back and finish my engineering degree, just for the sake of saying, look, I finished it. It's dumb. I have the magical piece of paper that tells me I'm intelligent and I can do it. I know that I can do it. That's not the point.
You can have that magical piece of paper.
You go through all of this school, all of your life, and you have this piece of paper that tells you this, you can do something. You have this piece of paper that tells, why do we need a piece of paper that tells us we are intelligent? Oh, wait, because the rest of the world needs a piece of paper that tells us we're intelligent.
Love it, yes.
And that's the only reason that I've never actually gone back to get it, is because I don't need a piece of paper to tell me what I know. And I know that everyone's, oh, well, where's your degree and where's your certification? And it's like, why do I need that?
Well, we're actually starting to get away from that now, because now we have a lot of people are starting to look at colleges in a different aspect, especially with this situation that's going on right now. A lot of people are being moved to do things online, but now we have, people who are Reiki healers and everything else, that a lot of people are not needing that piece of paper to be able to talk and help people anymore. Nope. And we're starting to get away from that. And we're going to get even more. Just wait and see, guys, because there's going to be a lot of changes in the horizon, and it's going to be changes that we've been wanting to happen for ever.
A long time. And I think, you know what, I actually see that as leading into love, is that everyone's starting to use this universal law of love.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right?
I love how you just transitioned that. That's beautiful.
We don't have to have this conditional attachment to things. Love encompasses so many different things and expresses itself in so many different forms. If somebody has a love for a subject or a passion or a hobby or a sport or something that they can go and do just to learn it, or that helps them to relax, or they really have this drive to learn every single little detail that they can about something, people see they're like, wow, you have this passion, and they love that passion that you have for whatever it is that you're going after, that you're learning, that you're doing, that you're constantly evolving, and you're constantly changing, pushing the boundaries within inside a niche, a subject, a topic, a sport, whatever it is. You're constantly pushing those boundaries.
Absolutely.
Which comes down to truly letting go and letting all things be in their divine order, in their how they're supposed to be, right? Exactly. We've always said that there's only this many slots for engineers and doctors and nurses and lawyers and politicians. Everyone could be there. Yep. Everyone has the potential to be anything that they want to be. It's just that we get these conditions put on everything. We forget to love people for what they truly want to be. Like, my very first thing when I was a kid was author. And I was told that being an author doesn't pay the bills. Being an author is not going to get you through life. So I had to kind of sidetrack to something that was a little bit more acceptable, conditional, that people will love me if I do this.
Right. I feel you right there, because I had the same struggles. There was things that I wanted to be in my life, and and they were like, well, this doesn't pay the bills. And I'm sure that they would tell me now that doing videos and interviewing people are not paying the bills. But you know what? It's something, to me, it means everything. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this means more than anything. So, and that's the way I look at it. And you and I have had conversations before where, when I was doing marketing and everything else, I walked away from quite a few deals. I would have made a lot of money. And I did it because it was going against my principle of what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was far more important than all the promises of riches and this and that and the other. And,
they called me crazy when I walked away from an incredibly successful affiliate marketing program. They're like, you're making nearly 10 grand a month. Why are you walking away from this right now? I'm like,
done it.
You do not understand where my mindset is right now. You do not understand what I'm going through and the people that I'm seeing and I'm helping. This is not just, I need the financial freedom to go and travel everywhere around the world. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't. I don't care about the car and the house and the fancy life. I don't care. I really don't. What is important to me?
I backed out when I was on that upcline. I was starting to, and I was just like, no, this is not resonating with me. I can't, I can't hang with this.
No. For all the talk they have about, not spamming and not pushing your ideas and thoughts and impressing onto other people, that's exactly what they teach you to do. You're impressing your thoughts, your judgments, your perceptions onto everyone else's free will. And I couldn't do it anymore.
Yep. Bingo.
Because I was learning all of this in the background. I could not, in good conscience, impress my own will upon other people. I am more than happy to sit in the background now and be like, this is what's happening, and this is what I think, and this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm thinking, and everything that's going on. But it's not for me. I can't be in their faces all the time. I will talk until I'm blue in the face. I will constantly present things to people, but I will never force them down a path. Lead the horse to water. Lead the horse to water. I can't make the damn thing drink, but I can lead a horse to water.
Exactly. Well, like I said, I do appreciate you coming on, and because I know I got my little one sitting there looking at me, and I know you got a little one looking at you. So, like I said, oh no.
Somebody stole the fire.
That's a pretty green lighter, by the way. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for coming on. We've been playing interview scheduling tag. So now finally she's it. We made it happen. So like I said, thank you guys so much for coming on. But look up the 11 universal principles, the 1-1, or even the 12-1. They all basically say the same thing. And these are things that are integrated into us and
all that's living, whether they realize it or not. And so thank you, Felicity, for coming on and explaining everything. It's a pleasure. Like I said, get familiar with this face because you're going to see her often as well.
I'll be back. I'll be back some other time, I'm sure.
Yes, the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. I'll be back.
I did not.
So thank you guys for joining us, and you guys have a blessed day, and we'll see you in the next video. Blessings.
Vibes only, yeah. They were hating, but we didn't even notice, cause we're on them good vibes only, yeah.
Are you still there? Great. I'm glad you stuck around. So I hope you enjoyed the interview between me and Felicity as we discussed the 11 universal principles. I hope that you have learned a lot. There will be more videos to follow with this subject and more. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and that way you can be notified of additional videos that'll be uploaded onto my channel. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm glad that you guys you guys have been great, encouraging me, giving me some pointers on making my videos the best that they can be, and I appreciate you guys giving me your input. So be sure to ask any type of questions. They will be answered. Just give it a little time for me to be able to know see them there, but they will be answered. So I thank you guys for coming on and watching another fantastic video. There will be more to come, so I will see you on the next video. Namaste.
People who judge without knowing, just throw the peace, I tell them good vibes only, yeah. They were hating, but we didn't